CBS News Bay Area Afternoon Edition with Ann Mekovic.
Right now in the afternoon edition, Governor Newsom saying no more excuses, laying out his latest plan to tackle homelessness. Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Yamamoto in for Ann. Governor Newsom says the goal is to immediately address homeless encampments with urgency and dignity. He's urging cities and counties to ban encampments, and he released a template that local governments can adopt. It calls for a ban on persistent camping in one location and encampments that block sidewalks. It also requires officials to provide 48-hour notice of sweeps and make every reasonable effort to offer shelter. This is not a mandate, and cities can decide on their own penalties for violations. Newsom also announced the release of a $3.3 billion in funding for Proposition 1, which will go to help local governments expand housing and treatment for behavioral health problems. Okay, switching gears to First Alert weather right now. Some rain to start off the week. This is what many of you woke up to and looking live right now at San Jose. Some clouds still out there right now. Let's check in with meteorologist Jessica Birch in the Virtual View studio. Jess, a little bit of a cool down.
A lot of it cool down all throughout the Bay Area. And then to add to that, you take a live look over into San Jose. You see those rain clouds just a little bit north. Here's what's happening right now. This is our First Alert Doppler, still active with light showers tracking off into the east. We zoom in a little bit closer to some communities over into San Francisco, drying up right now, but those dark clouds are still hanging on tight to us. And we're not out of the clear just yet. We'll continue to watch these light spotty showers, for example, just south of Berkeley, kind of light up the map widespread throughout the Bay. Now, it was a lot heavier earlier this morning, mind you. Pretty much the whole East Bay earlier was covered with showers. Now that continues to track off into the Sacramento Valley. A little bit more south into the Santa Clara Valley. We're drying up there. Lum Rock all the way up into Pleasanton, Livermore. That's where we're seeing those spotty showers in the forecast right now. So here's what it's going to look like. Futurecast showing those light scattered showers pretty much wrapping up around 8 o'clock tonight. We're in for a dry up as we head into our Tuesday and Wednesday forecast. So from now until then, we're really not going to see too much more impressive numbers. We could see trace amounts of showers, if anything, 1/100 of an inch all the way down into Redwood City, Ben Lomond as we wrap up the day today. And then we're in for a dry up and a warm up around the corner. I'll have more on that coming up in just a bit. Back to you.
Thanks, Jess. New developments from Washington. President Trump announcing a plan aimed at lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and investors reacting to news on a tariff breakthrough between the U.S. and China. Here's a live look at the big board right now. As you can see, the Dow trending in positive territory, up more than 1,000 points right now. This after the U.S. and China agreed to substantially lower their tariffs for now. Natalie Brand has more from the White House.
Great things happening.
President Trump is touting a temporary trade deal with China, even as the toughest part of negotiations are still ahead.
The talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China.
Under the agreement, the U.S. will lower its 145% tariff on Chinese goods to 30%. The retaliatory tariff China imposed on the U.S. will come down to 10% for 90 days while talks continue.
The biggest thing that we're discussing is the opening up China, and they've agreed to do that. But it's going to take a while to paper it. You know, that's not the easiest thing to paper.
Ongoing negotiations are expected to address the U.S.'s nearly $300 billion trade deficit with China, unfair trade practices, and fentanyl.
As long as there is good faith effort, engagement, and constructive dialogue, then we will keep moving forward.
The president also announced this morning a new executive order aimed at reducing the price of prescription drugs by trying to match U.S. prices to what other countries pay.
Basically, what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize.
Experts say the U.S. currently pays roughly 3 times as much as other developed countries.
With this new policy, what we call the most favored nation policy, would mean that the United States would pay no more than the lowest price paid by a high-income country.
The president tried to implement the plan in his first term, but was blocked by the courts.
And the pharmaceutical industry issued a statement calling this a bad deal for American patients. Drug manufacturers say the directive could limit access to medications for Americans and would likely lead to cutbacks in research for new drugs. Here in the Bay Area, we may see some changes as a result of that tariff breakthrough. It could potentially ease trade slowdowns and boost activity at ports nationwide, including in Oakland. Veronica Macias reports from the Port of Oakland.
While the tariffs, they're only in place for the next 90 days, and 30% is still considered pretty significantly large here for tariffs. Analysts are saying this is a positive surprise this morning. And here at the Port of Oakland, we had been hearing from dock workers. Remember, the majority of the items that are imported here are coming from China. You have everything from semiconductors, apparel, to home goods. And we know that there had been a significant decrease in supply that they had been seeing out here in the number of containers. So we know that the higher tariffs mean less containers, but recently we had spoken with an Oakland company managing a 15-acre truck parking and service facility for thousands of truckers. And the announcement of the tariffs started causing supply to go down because of uncertainty. And some truckers, they were being sent home early. So there was real concern about possible job cuts. So many are having a sigh of relief, you could say, this morning, businesses today. But analysts, despite the signs of progress in easing tensions between the world's two largest economies, some warn that the road remains uncertain ahead. And the message from some here at the Port of Oakland is favoring easing those tariffs.
We're being bullied to the rest of the world, and we need to learn to play nice.
The first quarter did close on a positive note with a 6.3 year-over-year increase in containers. However, that is suspected to be because so many businesses rushed before those tariffs were enacted.
And consumers are also tracking gas prices here in the Bay Area. Drivers are facing more pain at the pump. According to Gas Buddy, gas prices in San Francisco are up 25 cents in the past week. The average price in the city today is $5.15. Average prices in San Jose and Oakland are also up to $5.05. A recent USC study found that drivers in the state could be paying more than $8 per gallon by the end of the year. The study cites the imminent closures of a Phillips 66 refinery in Los Angeles and the Valero refinery in Benicia. Other headlines we're following today: the last living American hostage held by Hamas has been released. 21-year-old Israeli-American Edon Alexander was released to America's special envoy to the Middle East. Crowds in Tel Aviv cheered as they watched that moment. Alexander was raised in New Jersey and was serving with Israel's military when Hamas fighters abducted him on October 7th during the attacks. A Hamas spokesman said they freed him after several days of talks with the U.S. as part of efforts to achieve a ceasefire. Israel says it has not committed to any ceasefire. The sex trafficking trial for rapper Sean Diddy Combs begins today in Manhattan. He's accused of sexually assaulting, trafficking, and otherwise exploiting women over multiple decades prior to his September arrest. 4 women, including Combs' ex-girlfriend, singer Casey Ventura, are expected to testify. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted, he faces at least 15 years in prison.